2.0 ERP application. Our presenters are Peter Rowley, Director of Applications and Integration, and Mario Virilli, Academic Planning and Budget Officer from York University.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So, I'm Peter. I'm the IT guy, and this is Mario from the Provost office. And so, what we're going to talk about today is building a system that's really at the intersection of finance and HR and the student information system, and sort of fills in the gaps between those two. The context from a York perspective, York University, as many of you probably know, a large comprehensive university in northwest Toronto, which is actually one of the fastest growing areas in North America for people going to school. Each of York's 10 faculties is steeped in rich individual tradition, and they're quite separate. Financial pressures caused by the 2008 economic issues forced the university to dramatically step up its attention to efficiency issues while maintaining the level of quality for over 54,000 students. So a lot of you, if you're coming to this talk, you probably know what ERP is, but just to give a common definition, Wikipedia calls it something that integrates internal and external management of information across an entire organization. And that phrase, across an entire organization, matched up against our 10 faculties, was pretty key to this initiative. Embracing finance, accounting, manufacturing, sales and service, customer relation management, etc. For us, it's finance, accounting, and manufacturing in a sense, because what we're talking about is ultimately who is teaching what. So that's the basic product of the university. So for us, it's as a university, it's financial management, HR, and student information system, and other systems. So questions for you, which systems do you have for these purposes? And in particular, which of them have distributed access for staff? A couple of people who would say, what for financial management? Yeah? What system do you have? Okay. Any other PeopleSoft? Something other than PeopleSoft? Your banner, okay. And so, do you have, for HR systems then, do you have anything other than PeopleSoft or Banner? VIP. VIP? Okay. And then for the student information system, anything other than PeopleSoft or Banner or VIP? Yeah, homegrown. You're homegrown. Okay. Yeah, we do too, actually. Yeah. And are there any other kinds of systems that you consider to be part of your ERP suite that you have?
Advancement system?
Advancement, okay, you have advancement. Yeah. Okay. So we have pretty much the same sort of thing. PeopleSoft Finance and Accounts Payable, PeopleSoft Human Capital Management, and our student information system is also homegrown. It's a Java and an Oracle database. And up until 2012, the PeopleSoft HR was supplemented by a simple web application that allowed distributed hiring of part-time instructors. And that's because our PeopleSoft Finance and HR systems were not distributed. They were only used by the staff in those central departments. And so in order to accommodate hiring of large numbers of people for September for part-time instructors, we had to build a web system that would support that.
Okay, so just a little bit of context here for the opportunity and how we got here. So back in 2008-9, and at July 1st, 2009, York made the decision of merging two of the largest faculties, the Atkinson Faculty of Liberal Arts Professional Studies and the Faculty of Arts. When bringing those two faculties together, we would just have just over 25,000 students, a part-time budget of about $37 million we need to manage, and about 600 faculty members. And when we were looking around at what we had to manage that, we couldn't do it on a spreadsheet. So we approached UIT, we approached the vice president of academic at that point and said, we need to develop an in-house system where we can manage this sort of activity within the university. We did get board level commitment to actually pursue this. And one of the key things that the vice president academic at that time said is whatever we develop, and our CIO, whatever we develop for the university has to be a best practice across the university. So if you're building it for the largest faculty, we're going to assume that the other faculty will come on board eventually, and the whole university will use it. This will become a enterprise system for York. So we had to ask ourselves some questions around this. So so some questions we wanted to answer through the system is who's responsible for each course section, who is assigned to each tutorial lab, etc. How much will York spend to teach these courses? These are some of the questions that we asked as we were developing the system. Maybe questions for this group. I mean, how does your institution plan assignments within a budget? And what is the system of record for your course responsibilities or your meet responsibilities? So do you have such a system currently in your institutions that sort of track this information, full-time faculty teaching loads, those kinds of things? Or is it just done?
Do it after the fact.
It's after the fact? Yeah. Okay.
I got it.
Oh, good.
So Mario came to and his leadership came to the CIO, and I got this job of basically building a complete system to handle all of this between August 1st and October 1st. And so, well, one faculty, the Atkinson, was using a big spreadsheet, and the other faculty was using a big Access database. And we thought, well, maybe we could make a slightly better Access database within 8 weeks. And people, as Mary was saying, were really committed to best practices. So we had to change the problem. And what we did instead was what we've now called cycle-driven agile development. So we built the part of the system that was needed just before it was needed. So we didn't build the whole thing in 8 weeks. We built enough of it, and in fact, it wasn't quite 8 weeks, it was more like 3 or 4 months. Yeah. Just before it was needed. So we started, I guess, in July, and then started building for the first part of the planning cycle, which was in the fall. Right. And so what we did was we looked around York to see what system development talents we had, and Python was the programming language that we had that was best suited to rapid application development. And so we issued an RFP for Python development because we needed to do it with extra resources, and that was issued in July. So we picked a company in August, and we started with them. It's a company from Philadelphia called Autonomy. And since then, we've been doing a release into the user acceptance testing environment every 1 or 2 weeks, and 32 production releases over 4 years. So that's really the hallmark of Agile, is getting things developed and out into the user base quickly so that they can react, and then we can incrementally decide what's important for the next release. That allowed the system design to be responsive to user feedback, and the developers that we hired from Autonomy were really helpful because they supplemented that feedback with the real code with extensive use of HTML-based mockups. So there'd be some basic conversations. They'd come a week later with some screens that they could show the users, and then they get feedback. So the users evaluated new features in the context of their needs for the particular part of the planning cycle. So instead of giving them a big binder that they had to imagine the system from over the course of the full academic cycle, instead we gave them an actual working system that was at least part of what they were planning to do in the next part of the cycle, and then they could react to it authentically. Then most importantly, because we were dealing with this problem of trying to impose a central system on the whole of the university, doing it this way allowed the users to think of themselves as co-designers, and that really made all the difference for buy-in. And you want to talk a bit about the spreadsheet approach? We actually, the designers talked initially about a very click-intensive way of setting parameters. Users immediately reacted to that negatively because they were used to having a spreadsheet-style interface that would let them associate people with meets. And so within the space of about a month, we changed the model, and that they carried on from there.
So threaded through the system is York's academic planning cycle. So each year, these are the main components that we would use for the planning cycle. So we would start by setting course offerings, assign available full-time and part-time resources to those courses, sections, meets, tutorials, those kind of things. And then we have an approval of a part-time budget. But also one of the neat things that ARM does, and extends it beyond just managing resources, it actually then helps us manage all our job postings for our part-time faculty and our TAs, and also helps us manage notice of recommended appointments and offer letters. It is the official system of record for who's accepted a job. So that's all in a central database now, so we know the person actually accepted it. And it also now is facilitating our process of actually processing pay for these people. So there's an end-to-end workflow right now within the system where you can set what resources you need for the course and then actually end up paying that person through this one system. So 4.5 years later, we've accomplished all of that, but we also integrated support for all phases of the business cycle, which is great. One of the key things when we started this was that we wanted to have that end-to-end workflow in the system, and we accomplished that now 4 years later, which is a really good accomplishment for us. We have a great system that manages full-time faculty members' teaching loads, so it manages all their teaching. Any kind of course remissions or course releases associated with that faculty members, sabbaticals, leaves, all that information is being managed from one system. It also helps us manage our contract instructor assignments. So the part-time budget that goes along with that, every time we select a resource that's part-time and they may be a course director or a TA, there's an underlying salary rate that's associated with them that the system figures out and creates a part-time budget for our departments and faculties. As I said, it really helped us with the hiring workflow and of course with our collective agreements. One of the big things at York was that we have a lot of departments and a lot of at York and a lot of staff at York that are managing this collective, our QP collective agreements, QP 3903. And compliance is the hardest part. Make sure that everybody's complying with those collective agreements. This system now actually allows us to comply with those collective agreements because everybody's following the exact same process. And it's been integrated with our payroll system, which is great. Also, we're managing graduate student teaching and utilization, so we're actually managing more efficiently now where our graduate students are teaching and being utilized within York. It's also setting the foundation to support our enterprise, our other enterprise systems like the data warehouse, but also supporting places like our integrated resource planning area. And we're putting a lot of good reports out now on who's teaching what are they teaching, what is the cost of teaching, those kinds of reports. And it's really giving us a bird's eye view or a 10,000 meter view of the process now. So for myself and the Vice President Academics Office now can see where the bottlenecks are, ensuring that everybody's paid on time, everybody's complying to the collective agreement. So dean's offices, the Vice President Academic departments, all have that exact same view, and we'll show you in a few minutes a demo of that. There you go. So let's go here. So we're just going to give you a very high level demo of our system here. So this is the academic resource management system here. This is the home page. This is where we put updates and where people can get to just general information about the system. But some of the neat things that we developed with the system, I want to start with the search very quickly. We developed a system where you have a one-stop search, what we're calling the ARM Universal Search. And from the screen, you can see there's a whole variety of things you can search for. You can search for courses and meets. At York, we have different layers of courses. So a course would be Economics 1000, a section would be Economics 1000 Section A, and the meet would just include a tutorial of the group. So you can select courses and meets. So all that information comes from our student information system and gets fed into ARM. Once the course has been scheduled and a date and time has been applied, it shows up in ARM. Then staff can go in and start to what we call resource the course. So assign a full-time person to the course, a part-time person to the course, or a TA or something like that. Any kind of resource that's needed. Once somebody's been assigned, then it becomes a need assignment or an assignment, and people can search by that criteria. Also, you can see, as I was saying, we manage postings, candidates, offers, all those other things, and it's searchable here. I'm going to show you just quickly what Peter is referring to around the spreadsheet way in which we enter information. So we can go in and pick a faculty. Let's pick IMPS. And you'll see that it returns all the courses that are coming from our student information system here. And if we clicked on primary needs, this is probably one of the first screens we built, where we would see that spreadsheet kind of feel. What the users really wanted was a spreadsheet where they can go in and start to select the contract type, and then the position type, and then you put in the number of assignments, and that's where it actually creates that part-time budget for you. So this is very quick and high level. So once moving from the search, well, we started with this sort of screen at the beginning. This is great for a power user. But really what we wanted was something easy for the users to use, something that aligned nicely with the process that we put in there. So where we set course offerings, where we do the hiring and that kind of thing. So we quickly came up with probably halfway through the process is what's called a task view. And you'll see off to the side here is all the tasks that a staff member needs to do in their job through this process. So they need to forecast positions, manage postings, manage candidates, do some notice of recommended appointments. There's some approvals that are in there, and also some payment stuff. And also, if you wanted to do some quick searches of sabbaticals and course releases. So what we did is we tried to put together a task list here for if you were in LEMPS, and let's just say in anthropology, and let's just choose a summer. You would go in and say, okay, what do I need to do today? So today you'd go in here and say, if this was at the beginning of the year, all those forecast positions would be on the right side, and what you would see is that there is work to be done on unassigned needs. So it's a quick way of actually going in and selecting the work that needs to be done. Yeah, thank you. So on this side here. Once people make those assignments, they move over to the forecasted position. So these are very quick shortcuts for the staff to go and do the work that they need to do every day. So they can just click on seminar here, and it returns the one seminar that they need to make the assignment on. So they would go in and then just click assign, and then it returns the information that they need to do for that. Also, we have some of these screens, all this information here that's on this screen here all comes from our student information system. So we also tried to make it a one-stop shop for people where they didn't have to log out of one system and go into another. They can actually get all the information they need about that course right from the system here. So as they work through the process, they can work through the different task view here. So they can then manage postings, manage candidates as they go through it. The other piece we talked about was around managing the whole process. And what we create is what we call as a visualization. And so as for myself, for instance, I can go in here and look at the summer, and I can display, and I can see the whole process and where the university is in terms of that process. So I can see how many assignments that we have to resource for, how many still don't have any assignments to it, and where we are by contract type in the process. So how many more have to move through the process to actually be right to the end of the process. And all these boxes here are clickable, so I can click on any one of these, and it will take me to those 17 remaining pieces that need to be addressed. So the departments, schools and departments, and the faculties can work through that process for a very high-level view. The system also, as I said, creates a part-time budget. So you'll see that there's all of our faculties here, and as we're making as we're assigning resources, it then creates a part-time budget for each of the faculties. And you'll see that there's costs right down to the position type and the contract type here. And as we drill into these, it goes right down to the meat. So we have costs right down to that meat level, which we never had before. It was very broad sort of costs associated with this, and now we have those costs right down to that level. And just lastly here, we created a lot of reports to help with our compliance to our collective agreement. So we are starting to build reports to do with our compliance reports. There's operational reports, things like that. So we are putting together a lot of reports. I'll just show you one. So we have reports that are, where's what I'm looking for here? For instance, so we have a report here that actually helps our schools and departments and search to manage sabbaticals. So this report here gives them a really nice summary of where each faculty member is in the process of when they're going to normally retire, when their next sabbatical is coming up, when their sabbatical has been approved, if it's been deferred. This helps chairs and directors to do planning for the upcoming year. So we have basically the system is a system that fills a gap or a void between our student information system and our HR systems. And there was a lot of pieces that we were doing manually. Now we have actually automated and made a lot of progress in, and it's a lot more efficient at York now, where we can manage this. Last piece I just want to show you is how we manage our instructors. So I showed you some examples on how we manage our courses, but also we can manage full-time instructors and contract faculty from here. And I'll just pick one. And all this information here comes from our HR system. So this is all fed from our PeopleSoft system. And then what we do is we manage their instructor loads from here. So we manage what their standard loads from each faculty member is, if they have any owing or banking sort of course releases from the previous year, and also then what courses they're teaching and what they still need to teach. This is, and also we manage sabbaticals from the screen, from the section, and course releases and other things like that. So the system has been developed so that we can actually know when each person has their next sabbatical they have to take. I usually spend about 2 hours going through the system, and we only have 40 minutes, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but this gives you sort of a high-level kind of sense of what's in the system. If people have more questions or would like to see it a little bit more, Peter, I was more than happy to always sit down with people and show them, but there's a lot here.
Are there any questions so far about what you've seen?
Are all the courses set up centrally? Are there ratios and all?
Yes.
Is that how it's done?
Yeah, so what happens each year is that we have a process by which each year, starting sometime in August, September, is when we kick off for the next sort of planning cycle. So we do it about a year in advance. And there's a spreadsheet that gets distributed to all the schools and departments. That spreadsheet gets then edited for time and dates, gets sent back to the registrar's office, and gets uploaded into our student information system. Once each course gets assigned a time and a date, then the next day it appears on. I mean, eventually, that's one place that we actually want to make some more efficiency around that piece of it. We still think that not the best practice of setting up those spreadsheets and getting people to do that. There are probably some other efficient ways of doing it through ARM or a new course offering system.
Well, particularly at the end, when you're adding sections, there's a bit of a long cycle right now to add that.
Right. And that's a pretty intensive process. That starts usually in August and ends sometime in January, February. So that process alone, as that unfolds, and then you have to quickly get your courses resources because you want to have a budget set up by April for the next fiscal year. So it's a good, September to April, 8 months of work for the schools and departments to work through that.
Yeah, in terms of the title of the talk about tightly integrating budget and planning, the tight integration is really on the process of adding instructors. Because once the budget is frozen, then,
Yes.
then Dean's office have to approve those
Right.
changes.
What happens if, for some reason, your registration, let's say it's in May, that it probably is around May, June?
Yep.
Registration.
Yep.
And there's this course that everybody wants to take,
Yep.
we only had one session set up.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, we say there's another 2 that needs to be added on.
Yep.
How do you go and?
Okay. So this is one of the things that Peter was just talking a little bit about. So what used to happen in the past, before we had ARM, the schools and departments would just call up the RO and say, we need to put another course on, or send an email over to them and say, we need to put another course on. They would do that without consulting with the dean's office most of the time. Their first reaction is, we need to put another course on, we have lots of demand. They would call the RO, set up the course, they would get a posting ready, because we'd probably have to hire a contract faculty member to teach that course. And the last stop was with the dean's office now for approval. But everything else was done already, so the approval didn't mean anything. So with ARM now, what happens is that we actually now have a better process. So what happens is that they can still call the RO and get the course set up, but that course will then show up in ARM. But in order to resource it, after May 1st, we usually take a snapshot. We freeze the data in time. So until they cannot move any further ahead until the dean's office actually goes into ARM and approves that course now. So there's an approval process in ARM where you can set up the course in SIS, you can get it all date and time, you can put a resource in there, but it cannot move any further ahead by doing the posting or any of that without the dean's office approval. So we actually we've locked that down, that process, and it's a lot better. We have better control over those costs now. Also, one of the nice things I didn't show you under the budget is that every change that happens to the part-time budget after that snapshot gets recorded, so that we have a nice variance list at the end of the day. So in the past, when you have a $37 million part-time budget in school or faculty of liberal arts professional studies, it's very hard to know what your variance is, like what's changed over the years. You're absolutely right. There's so many courses, so many TAs are moving, full-time are getting sick, part-time are getting hired. Now we have a complete list at the end of the day. We just attach to our budget and say, this is what's happened over that last year. These are the changes that have happened. So it's been a lot more transparent. It's really good now. I mean, we have a better handle on it.
And there's broader impact. I think this is yours.
Oh, is it? Okay. So yes, ARM has had a broader impact at the institution. So it is a single authoritative source for academic planning data across all faculty. So as Peter said, eliminating scores of departmental level spreadsheets and access databases. So we have every faculty now on board, which is great. It's definitely providing earlier information to students on who's teaching what. So the hardest working person at York for the longest time was DBA. We just entered into our registration, opened beginning of June, and as soon as the full-time faculty members or part-time faculty members' names are entered in ARM, that night after, they're pushed out to SIS, and students can see who's teaching those courses. It's also provided accurate information on to drive our detailed online course evaluations. So one of the other approaches, I don't know if you want to speak to this a bit, was an online course evaluation system that integrates with ARM.
Yeah. Essentially, as part of a green initiative, York wanted to put all the online course evaluation online. All the course evaluation online as opposed to scan sheets. And that reduced the turnaround in reporting from months to days. That's used mostly across the campus. There are some professors who still prefer paper, but actually one of the things we're doing there independently of ARM is we've created a mobile interface, because the issue around people using online course evaluation and the rates being low is not so much the online part, it's the fact that in the old system with paper, we dedicated a portion of a class to that activity. And so now by going mobile, we dedicate a portion of the class to that activity. They do it online through their laptop or their phone, and you get the same response rates as you would with a paper-based system.
It's provided also earlier instructor access to learning management systems. It's supported the university with emergency preparedness and sustainability plans. I mean, as we're getting more things onto the web now and pushing it out to central websites like our postings and our notes of recommended appointments, everything being PDFs. A lot more people are emailing now, which is good. It's also supporting the efficient assembly of enterprise data for our institutional data warehouse. And as I said before, it really supported integrated resource planning process, which is really good. It's really giving us a lot of good data.
So now I'm going to sort of dig into a bit of the technology behind it. The ARM database is part of York's database ecosystem. We have a lot of Oracle databases that share information, and also with PeopleSoft Finance and HR, the student information system itself, the identity management system, and so on. For ARM itself, it's about 2.5 gigabytes in 217 tables, so large but not huge. The database is on a separate Solaris server. The data is on a NetApp filer, which is highly redundant, and about 150 users use it across all faculties. And that's using it directly with the interface that Mario showed you. All the data is used by everybody, including all the 50,000 students. So it was developed with a language called Python that is in use by Google amongst others, and a framework for applications called Pylons. The UI, which is a Web 2.0 interface, is built with the Yahoo user interface library, which is a JavaScript library. Runs under Ubuntu Linux. The business logic is about 45,000 lines of Python. The presentation logic is 6,000 lines of JavaScript and 20,000 lines of HTML. We have a regression testing suite because one of the things you find with agile development with so many releases, you have to be able to do regression testing quickly. So we use open source tool called Selenium for that. And then we do the integration between ARM and the hiring part of PeopleSoft HR via something called via web services, some SOAP calls. And that's the ARM software stack. So you can see a lot of this has to do with dealing with data from other services. And I won't go into all the details, but at the bottom it's an Oracle database. And then this is all from the Python world in terms of how the application is built. Getting data from other Oracle databases, transforming it, working with some systems through web services, and then this is the user-facing functionality. And I can go into more detail on that later if anybody's interested. This is shows how the system communicates with other systems. So PeopleSoft HR sends HR data to an Office of Institutional Research. That cleans it up a bit. It goes into ARM. Other data goes directly. This is a separate hiring system that's been supplemented for use with ARM. And this shows one of the simpler things. When a part-time job is posted, it goes to the main website, again through a web service. And you can see between the student information system and ARM, it gets course data and data about graduate students, and then it gets pushed back course directors, section directors, and instructors for things like labs and tutorials. Questions? So what's next? I think you're going to do this one.
So every time I think we're done, we're not really done. So we want to do some more integration support for adding courses and sections, so starting with rollovers from 1 year to the next. So one of the big things for us was that now we have the system in place, but there's been we can make a bit more efficiency around the way in which people have to re-enter data each year. So what we're trying to do right now is trying to get what we've done in the last release, one of the last releases, is we're actually rolling over our assignments year over year. So as that feed is coming in from our student information system, users will have the opportunity now to hit one single button to actually join previous year's assignments with the new feed and then roll those over year. So it cuts down the number of assignments they need to put in each year. So also we want to have online interactions with instructors, facilitate full-time faculty member course assignments, streamline contract instructor application and acceptance. So maybe working through our new faculty or student or staff portal and trying to get some of that integrated. Always trying to improve the graduate student funding experience, I guess. At York, we still have a couple systems that are sitting on people's desktops right now and not really not part of any larger system. And one of the big things we really want to do better at is managing graduate student funding. So we have part of it in ARM already through managing the TA-ship, but there's other parts of that graduate student funding that we want to be able to manage. But also from the faculty members' perspective, the supervision management is important to us too. So we want to work on that. Did you want to speak to this one?
I can do this.
Yeah, this is,
So, we've been working with this company that we hired back in 2008 for now 4.5 years. And the system has reached a level of maturity that we now feel it was important for us to bring all of that maintenance and development in-house. So we created a new team, and a manager was hired last December. And so we have one person who does support for ARM. And we have a developer being hired. The team actually handles ARM, the online course evaluation, and our Moodle LMS chores. And so when the team is complete, it'll have the manager, support analyst, and 2 developers. And they're all busy getting ready to completely take over from the vendor as of end of July. So one of the things that we're now looking for, and one of the reasons we're giving this talk, is looking for development partners. We have this body of code that we found in various other talks, particularly at academic planning conferences. There's some resonance, and we'd like to have partners to continue the development of the application. And we're still looking for good models as how to do that. We think probably given the strengths of the application, it would be an institution with significant number of contract instructors. One that's comfortable with the applications technologies and maybe is also interested in the online course evaluation piece. And one of the things too we're trying to get feedback on is whether it would be sort of university to university cooperation, or more like community source, like the Kuali effort, where there's a number of different universities all cooperating on one large body of university software in the ERP space, starting with financial systems. And are there any thoughts or questions about that? And this one is for you.
So I think there's more questions for you guys. So, I mean, this is always some of the questions that we're trying to answer, and this is how we started, I guess, right? Around
Right.
trying to identify the gaps and how it addresses these gaps, so coordination between departments and faculties, higher workflow. So would you have the similar kinds of issues at your institution, I guess? Would you have the sort of similar gaps at your institution that you would try to address today?
Or putting it the other way, how do you address them at your universities?
We have a, so I'm not sure, there used to be an access database. From what I remember, there was one of the faculties that was building it. And centrally it's been taken by our central system. I'm from the University of Ottawa. And I know this project is moving along, but I'm not sure where it is.
Oh, okay.
Probably next season on the committee, when we're more on the
Okay.
I mean, for us, it was definitely something that we need to get resolved, especially with that new faculty coming on board. It was something we could not move forward with what we had. So it was definitely a big gap. To define that, looking at the one big gap, that actually opened it up to looking at a whole bunch of smaller gaps that we made efficiencies around, which was really interesting for us as we worked.
I guess maybe the basic question we have for the audience is, to the extent you know, which of your universities have a centralized record of who's teaching what? Okay, and which university?
University of Windsor.
Windsor, okay. And it's true for you too? Your IT is centralized at Windsor, right?
Yes.
Yes, that could probably help.
Yeah, actually, our SIS and our HR records are tied in.
Okay, good to know.
That's interesting.
Okay. And so that's us. If you have any other questions or comments, you can email us, or we'd be happy to talk to you now.
I didn't have to use.
Oh,
No,
I didn't have to use it.
we're pretty efficient.
well, I think we have 10 minutes for questions.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You mentioned that you chose Python as a language for development as an experience. What was the particular reason you went with the Python framework for it?
That was the one that was suggested by the developers that we hired from Philadelphia. And it has lived up to its reputation for supporting rapid application development. Within the Python community, there's discussions about turbo gears versus pylons versus pyramid and so on. Ultimately, we will have to upgrade to a new framework.
Any questions at this time? Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.